a left wing or a new left here in the United States?
I think it starts with the financial crash, the housing collapse. You have the Occupy Wall Street movement. That's the spark out of that, where for the first time, you have this really visible critique of capitalism. And I think the language of Occupy got a lot of things right. The 99 versus the 1% was probably some of the best sort of framing of class consciousness that we've had, at least in my lifetime, in the US. Directly out of Occupy, you end up with the Bernie Sanders political movement. I mean, right out of that, some of the same organizers, they organize people for Bernie. They sort of, recruit him into the race. And he creates a permission structure for young Americans in particular to think bigger and imagine something different than the bounds of the neoliberal Democratic Party debate. And of course, this comes on the heels of the disappointments of Barack Obama and the hollow nature of the change and the hope that he ultimately promised. So you have that. And now you have something different too, which is that for the first time, again, in my lifetime, you have an energetic labor movement. You have this grassroots movement of workers saying, you know what, and this is what Krystal said at Amazon Labor Union, we're not going to quit our jobs anymore. We're going to organize and make these jobs that we have into good jobs. So I think all of those things, the awareness of coming out of the financial crash, the anger coming out of the financial crash, the fact that the millennial generation is the first generation that's going to do worse than their parents, that's meeting every milestone later than their parents, the actualization of that through the Bernie Sanders movement and giving people sort of a space and a way to come together and a common framing and a common agenda. I think that has led to, a massively increased left awareness and class awareness. That broader awakening isn't something that you can just put back in the bottle and stuff under the bed.
Do you think we've gone beyond the taboo? I'm older than you. I lived my life here in the United States through the whole Cold War, everything. The taboo that you can't speak critically of capitalism, you can't say capitalism most of the time. If you do, you have to bow down and celebrate it. You can't attack it. You can't talk about its weaknesses. Are we out of that box? Have we grown up enough to be able to talk about it? Or are we still stuck in that frozen period?
I think it is very generational, isn't it? So I think young Americans are very comfortable talking about critiquing capitalism. I'm 40 years old. I'm basically like the oldest millennial that you can be. And I basically feel like people my age and younger, we didn't grow up with that same Cold War sensibility. So that wasn't as much a part of our cultural upbringing. And we've also, my age cohort, we were coming of age during the housing crash. All the promises of, you just work hard and you go to college and you rack up all this debt, but it's going to be fine. It's going to be worth it on the other side. We see the way that was a lie, and that our futures were basically sold out by, politicians before us. So I think among people my age and younger, there's a lot of comfort with it. Older generations, it's funny because they'll walk right up to the edge. They'll talk about, corporate greed and the corruption, and those are all things that are safe to say. But to go that extra step further and say the problem is capitalism, then it's this is scary. Yeah. This is social. What are you talking about? Yeah. So I think the sentiment and the awareness that something is deeply broken and rotten and hollow at the core of our society is there. But among older generations, I think there's still a lot of discomfort of naming the problem as capitalism itself.